welcome to a new Shaken and Not Stirred, where I am joined always but with my amazing host, Adam. How you doing?
I am doing very well tonight. How are you doing, sir?
Doing pretty well. It's Thursday. Excited tomorrow's Friday,
Mm-hmm.
day of the work week. Got the Bears this Sunday. I'm excited about that. Excited just to relax, really, and watch some more James Bond. I've been since you have pointed this out last time on Pluto. It has been a home away from home, and my wife is now enthralled with James Bond. Everything,
Really?
yes, to the point where she was just watching Octopussy with me, and Roger Moore is just really cool. I mean, honestly, really cool. I'm actually getting sad that we're running to the end of his movie. You wish he could have stayed young forever and just kept playing Bond in all the movies, but wasn't the way it was.
Well, this is the last one. I mean, you started to see his age a bit here, but you really see it in the View to a Kill. So,
Yes, you do. But let's hop right in. Let's hop right into Octopussy tonight.
okay.
Um, let's start with the where we are right before Octopussy gets off the ground here.
Well, picking up from where we left off a couple weeks ago, they did For Your Eyes Only, which was done in 1981, and that got away from the absolutely crazy and insane stories they were doing before that with like The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker. Just very outlandish, diabolical scenarios, from the villains, between world domination and nuclear holocaust and starting a new race of people on Earth after destroying them all from space, things of that nature. So For Your Eyes Only took a different turn and turned, Roger Moore into a little bit of a grittier James Bond. And it was well received, but they kind of went back on it with this one. This one is crazy like Moonraker and Spy Who Loved Me, but it's crazy in a different way. So the story is not quite as outlandish. It involves the plot, the villainous plot's kind of difficult to keep up with in this movie, especially if you're first watching it. It involves jewelry smuggling, and then it turns into something about that involves like a dirty atomic bomb that's going to pave the way for the USSR to sweep its way through Europe and kind of destroy NATO. So starts with jewelry smuggling, and then once the jewelry smuggling kind of gets into that, it's kind of gets a little crazy. But this is a very I consider this is one of my favorite Bond movies is to watch in general. I don't consider it like, oh my god, this is a great film like a lot of Roger Moore Bond movies, but it's very, I like to just think it's a very comfortable Bond movie to watch. Every time I watch it, I'm like, oh, sweet, Octopussy's on. I'm going to watch, chill and watch this. And I always enjoy it no matter what. It's a very take it for what it is movie. It's got a lot of cool parts in it. Roger Moore is just as good in this film as he is in any other one. And you get a lot of, fun quips from him. You get some ridiculous gadgets. Like I said, besides basically the plot, which can be a little convoluted at times. It's a pretty fun movie. And you said you just watched it recently,
Yeah.
and it's not your first viewing, right?
No,
Seen it before.
no. Yeah.
So did you feel any differently about it this time than you did when you first watched it?
I feel exactly how you described it. It's awesome. It's comfortable. It's a good time. I don't know why I do this, and it's pretty much how I got my wife to watch these awesome Roger Moore ones. Is I was like, they're very like I like the roadhouse-ness in it. Like there's some very like it's supposed to be serious, but you could smile. Like there's certain scenes as we talk about it more here. I don't want to give them away now, but you can see where they were going with it, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So there were people that were critical of Fear Eyes Only, and they thought they liked what Roger Moore was doing kind of before that because it worked for him. So they kind of went back with it. But the big catalyst in bringing this together was there was another Bond movie being made in 1983,
Mm.
and it was not by United Artists. So Kevin McClory, who owned the rights to Spectre and the names that go along with like Blofeld and such, was trying to produce a movie himself, and it came out the same year, starring a familiar face.
Mm.
And that familiar face was Roger Moore's predecessor and Lazenby's predecessor to Sean Connery. So this movie, the fact that Never Say Never Again, which is a movie that Connery would be in 1983, pretty much had direct effect on this, because this is the reason why Roger Moore probably came back for this one. They really begged him to come back for this because they thought that was probably the only way they could compete with the Sean Connery James Bond film. Now, if anybody who's watching this has seen Never Say Never Again, it's not part of they should know it's not part of the actual Bond
canon.
Bond canon. But since Sean Connery's in it, it was kind of a big deal at that time. So they had Roger Moore come back and basically say, hey, we'll do whatever, bring you back for this one. He wasn't opposed to it, but he wasn't, after Moonraker, he wasn't really signed to, he was doing it picture by picture. He wasn't signed to a specific deal to where he had to make so many pictures, like James Bond pictures.
Mm.
And this is also the first time that, so United Artists and MGM merged at this time. So this is the first movie you kind of see that come together, and you can see the opening credits. You see the MG, like basically the Lion logo and United Artists. So they decided, you know what, our best chance of competing with Connery is let's bring Roger Moore back. Let's bring back what works with Roger Moore, which is kind of what the Spy Love Me and Moonraker did the best. So they kind of went back from, you know, basically being grittier to let's be silly again.
Mm.
But I mean, it's not, like I said, not quite as outlandish and silly, but it's silly.
Mm.
And so this movie was released before Never Say Never Again, and it was much more successful. So they got what they wanted out of it. And if Roger Moore didn't come back for this film, he probably doesn't come back for View to a Kill either. Now, people can argue whether or not he should have been involved in View to a Kill, because that time he was 58 and really looking his age. But either way, if Connery doesn't come back and make this movie, Roger Moore's probably not there for Octopussy. He's probably not, and certainly wouldn't be there for View to a Kill. So that's kind of basically where we're at with this. So the story of Octopussy, though, it's kind of off. It's off Ian Fleming's short story. It's called Property of a Lady, and a property of a lady you do see in the film when they're looking through an auction book about a Fabergé egg, which comes into play with the whole jewelry smuggling. So you see right here the villain. They're actually at the auction where the Fabergé egg is being auctioned off. But before that, there's a cold open in this movie that's I always thought was one of the most fun cold opens of any Bond movie.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Now, it's supposed to take place in Cuba, but it looks more like Kentucky than it does Cuba. But supposedly it was filmed, I think it's filmed like in like the UK, but it features Bond being like infiltrating a Cuban air base, and he's there to blow up a prototype plane. He gets caught, and basically he escapes, and he's in this little mini jet, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool piece, and like and I got something interesting about that later on too. But he escapes in that. He ends up, you know, blowing up the hangar and all that stuff. And they did a lot of cool stuff with this. There's heat-seeking missiles chasing him. There's all sorts of stuff going on. And it was kind of like, you know, it just hits in the face real quick. And then from there, you know, it goes right into the opening credits from Maurice Bender and the theme song, which is not, the word Octopussy is never even said, you know, in the theme song. But it goes into that. Then it gets more into the story where a double O agent is running from two twin knife wielding circus performers. And that's exactly what they are, as ridiculous as that might sound. And he's running from them in a clown suit. That's where we're at, kind of in this, to kick it off. And in East Berlin. So like I said, remember this 1983, so the USSR is still a big thing. The East Berlin's a thing. The Berlin Wall's still up for another 6 years. So that kind of kicks the story off, and and they end up killing him, and he's holding a Fabergé egg, and it comes out of his hand. And that's what kind of kicks off the story with this one. This movie, as ridiculous as it kind of was, like I said, was very successful and people liked it a lot. The budget for this was like $27.5 million, and it ended up grossing, like domestically grossed just almost 68 million, worldwide just over 187 million. So it did way better than Never Say Never. I don't have the numbers exactly on Never Say Never Again, but it did a lot better than that. Because Never Say Never Again was basically a direct ripoff of Thunderball. So the story's been seen before, and you looked at Sean Connery in that movie, and Sean Connery in that film looked older than Roger Moore did here still. So and he kind of they meant him to look older, but still, I don't think fans took to it as well as Kevin McClory or as the writers for Never Say Never Again hoped they would. So basically, Roger Moore wins again. And yeah, like I said, last episode, he killed Blofeld in 10 minutes, where Connery had 5 or 6 movies that killed him and couldn't do it. And now he's out to him at the box office. This is no slight on Sean Connery. I love Sean Connery. I'm just giving him shit because I lead Roger Moore. But yeah, so it was, it's kind of, like I said, a convoluted story. But there's some cool, Peter Lamont is the production designer in this film. Ken Adam, like I said, last episode, left after Moonraker. And Peter Lamont he's better at using kind of locations as set pieces rather than building elaborate set pieces, with the exception of maybe one of them in this movie, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. And then, like I said, Maurice Binder did the opening. And I think visually, I don't know why, maybe I'm nuts, but this is kind of one of my favorite visual Bond openings, like during the title credits scene.
That was cool.
And yeah, it was cool. And I do like the song that went with it. We'll get into that in the music a little bit. A lot of people didn't, but I kind of understand why they went the way they did. It's pretty obvious, actually. But so overall, this movie was a success, and Bond was still in a great place. Let's get into the characters, the main characters in this one.
Yes.
You do have the general troupe that comes in. You have Roger Moore, as James Bond. Obviously, you have Lois Maxwell back as Moneypenny, although there is someone else in this, because there's a girl I think her name was Miss was like Smallbone or something. Because they were looking kind of for a replacement for her in a way, because they weren't sure Roger Moore was going to come back, or Lois Maxwell for that reason. They probably weren't going to bring either of them back. So they were going to have these people in the, her in the movie, just in case, to take over for Moneypenny, in case she didn't come back. But this is the only appearance that girl made, and she's much younger than Lois Maxwell is. And Moneypenny kind of makes little comments about that as Bond gives her one flower, and then gives the Smallbone all the other ones. And of course, this girl is all about Bond and is in love with him, even though she's probably in her 20s or whatever. But it's Roger Moore, who wouldn't be. So anyway, the cast in this one, besides them, we do have Robert Brown playing M for the first time. There was no M in the last movie because Bernard Lee did pass away during the filming of that movie, so there basically was no M. In this one, Robert Brown, who played Admiral Hargreaves in The Spy Who Loved Me, was in this one. And he plays a different, he definitely plays a different type of M than Bernard Lee did. He's not nearly as annoyed as Bernard Lee was with James Bond all the time. And then you have Desmond Llewellyn back as Q, and he's very annoyed with Bond, but
Oh,
also gets to go,
I love when he gets annoyed with.
he gets annoyed with Bond a lot in this one, and he also gets to go out in the field to do a little field work too
Yeah,
at the
he
end of
did.
this one. So that was pretty cool to get him involved like that. Um, the main villains you have, well, let's get to the first. You have the villainess, or who supposedly is a villainess for a while, who plays Octopussy, and that's Maud Adams. And she returns to the Bond franchise. She was originally in The Man with the Golden Gun, playing a completely different character, but they brought her back for this after they tried to get Faye Dunaway to do it initially. And
Oh,
Octopus was actually going to be a villain in this movie, like through the whole thing, but they figured out she was kind of a little too expensive for it, so they didn't go with her. And but not only her, but Barbara Carrera turned down the role as well. Now, Barbara Carrera ends up being in Never Say Never Again with Sean Connery, and that is why she turned down this role, is because she wanted to she wanted to start a movie with Sean Connery. So, with her turning it down and Faye Dunaway being kind of too expensive, they found Maud Adams.
hmm.
But a couple other people who, the Sybil Danning was one of the people who auditioned for it, and for Star Trek fans, Perseus Kambata, who was in Star Trek the Motion Picture, played Lieutenant Ilea. She was also considered for the role too, but eventually it did go to Maud Adams. So you have her in this film. The villains, I think themselves, are really pretty strong in this movie. Louis Jourdan plays Camille Khan, who is like an exiled Afghan prince, and then you have my favorite, Stephen Burkoff,
Hmm.
who is he. So Stephen Burkoff, and I didn't know a lot of this until I was really like, I've watched Octopussy several times and seen Stephen Burkoff, and I never really looked into kind of what he did a lot until a little while back. And now he plays General Orlov in this. So he's a Russian general who's hell bent on like basically breaking NATO in Eastern Europe and basically taking over Europe.
Yeah.
And there's a scene like he kind of goes, it's pretty funny, but I'll get to that in a minute. But this guy was in A Clockwork Orange. He was in Barry Lyndon, so he was in two different Stanley Kubrick movies.
Beverly Hills Cop.
He was in Beverly Hills Cop. He was in one of the Rambos. I think it was Rambo. I think it was in First Blood, Part 2. So he plays a nice over the top general in this one. Like he doesn't hold back. And then you have Walter Gotell come back as General Golgo, and he kind of in this one, he's very much a face in this one. He was kind of a heel in the other ones, but not so much a heel. But he was always the counterpart of M. And this one, he is basically saying, "No, we do not need to take an offensive against NATO. It's suicide. They'll retaliate with their weapons. This is ridiculous what you're talking about, Orlov." But Orlov's speech he gives in this one room they're in, when he gives this whole speech, it's a pretty elaborate room, and it looks like a Ken Adams set piece. If you didn't know it wasn't him, you'd be like, whoa. But it's got the spinning table, giant monitor. It's pretty awesome. But
Yeah, he
Orlov
was
is
really, really in depth with
yeah.
the.
Orlov like gets up and starts just like parading around, and he's sitting there just yelling and hooting and hollering, saying we can do this, we can do that. And he's raising his voice and bringing it back down. He's doing, like I said, he really just hams it up for the scene. It's awesome. But then he gets shut down. So when he gets shut down by the premier, he kind of sits in his seat. It's very much like George C. Scott in Doctor Strangelove. The same type of scene in the war room. He slumps down his chair and he's kind of like folds his arms and pouts like this before someone comes and gives him a note, and just, he has to like take off or whatever. But he's awesome in this film, and I love like the scenes that he was in because he brings like a lot of energy to it. But Louis Jourdan, he brings a different type of energy. He's very smooth. He reminds me a lot of like Hugo Drax in a way, like his mannerisms and just the way he talks in general.
Yeah, I was familiar with him in Swamp Thing, early '80s movie. He's the bad guy in those movies, and it's cool that he's the bad guy in this one because, as you said, he's very smooth. Very
He's
smooth.
very smooth, very sinister. He was also in the VIPs with Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton back in the 60s. So he was a pretty accomplished actor, and he was a good choice, I think, to play this particular role. Christina Wayborn was also kind of his sidekick, and you showed her earlier with him. And also, she also worked with Octopussy in this movie. So, but she was a Swedish actress, just like Maud Adams. So, just like the Man with the Golden Gun, we had Britt Eklund and Maud Adams, two Swedish actresses. You have him again, basically, for this one, which is kind of strange that they went Swedish actresses again, but whatever,
Hey,
it
I'll
worked.
take them.
But but yeah, so most of this movie takes place, like I said, there's some scenes like basically East Berlin. A lot of it's filmed in the UK. Most of it's filmed in India, and with it being in India, they need some Indian actors. So Kabir Bedi was kind of the henchman in this one for Louis Jourdan. He's a big time actor in India. We don't know him much from here, and if you look at his filmography, there's probably not much in there or anything in there you probably recognize. But I guess these are really big movies in India, and he was a big deal. So him being in a Bond film was like a big deal for them. Like people in India, I think they drew a lot of money from that country,
I
not
bet.
not just filming there, but the fact that this guy was actually in the film.
I bet.
So and he doesn't really get many lines. He hardly gets any lines. He's just an intimidating guy. You see him crush dice in his hand, one part very much like Odd Job, where he crushes a golf ball. So, but he's like that. He's like Odd Job, Jaws. I mean, he's a guy, who doesn't speak very much, but he's very physically imposing and intimidating. But and then
I like the showdown with him at the end.
yes, that's like I said, we were discussing, like that's like a Tom Cruise Mission Impossible scene well before Mission Impossible ever even was a thing in the theaters. That obviously was a show. But anyway, so then you have besides Christina Wayborn, you had a guy named Vijay Amritraj. I think I'm pronouncing his name right, Amritraj, and he is basically Bond's sidekick in this movie. And he was actually Albert Broccoli met him at Wimbledon because this guy was a tennis player, like a real good tennis player, legit tennis player. And he met him at Wimbledon. He had aspirations to be an actor, and he got cast in this movie. He's from his Indian descent, so it's like, hey, this is perfect. So he played. His name is Vijay, and his name in the movie is Vijay. So that was easy. And so all these scenes in India, Vijay's kind of with Bond. Vijay's kind of a good sidekick, has a lot of lines, is very involved. But like most Bond allies, they end up, meeting their fate during the movie at some point. The only thing that annoyed me about Vijay was the fact that he smiled so damn much. The dude's always smiling and laughing, and almost got annoying at certain points. But he was all right though. He was also the only other thing I've ever seen this guy in. He was in a brief portion of Star Trek 4, where he played a captain reporting to space, talk about their power being drained by the space probe. So between him and Perseus Kambata, you had two people with Star Trek ties. I'll get to the Star Wars ties later on because, of course, there's more of those. There always
Well,
seem
this
to be.
might be a stupid question. I was going to wait to ask you, but I got some really some a little Indiana Jones vibes in this movie, a little bit, just a little bit. And what I mean by that, in a positive way, like James Bond, the way you have explained to me how, like, with Moonraker, they were doing the Star Wars, like, they don't steal from it. They're inspired by it. So they take it into the story and make it, it's kind of like like if Led Zeppelin did a song with reggae, it's Led Zeppelin, but they're doing a song to try something different. And I like that James Bond always did that.
Yeah, so they do things that fit in with their times. So they know ahead of time and say, hey, this is what is popular right now, so we're gonna go with this. You can fast forward to Casino Royale in 2000, when Daniel Craig did that, and that was 2006. That was when Texas Hold'em was big and the World Series of Poker was a big thing.
Yep.
So the original Casino Royale, they're playing like Baccarat or whatever. They're playing Baccarat's no like no one plays that, and you ask anybody how to play, they're like, I don't know how to play it. So they went with Texas Hold'em because it was a big deal at the time, and it's easy to film scenes with Texas Hold'em. And there are a lot of movies that came out around that time that kind of, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but a couple of them,
Yeah.
like Rounders is one of them. So they're playing off that what's popular at the time.
I like that.
Yeah, so they kind of and it helps a franchise. That's how it's something like this is very flexible. You can change, you can take from stories like Ian Fleming's novels, but insert these types of things in there to keep it fresh and keep it popular with what is popular in the time period they are in. So that's kind of what they did here. So you do bring up a valid point with that, because I shouldn't say they're guilty of doing it, because it sounds like they're ripping something off, but they're really not. They're just going along with it. Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark came out in 1981. That was being filmed, right around the same time that Free Your Eyes Only was. So this is the first opportunity they had to play off as something like that, like the jungle chase and things of that nature, and the snakes, and so they did. I'm sure there's nothing concrete
What
about
makes
it.
them better than most is that, like, with take Star Wars, there's a lot of bad sequels. Honestly, there isn't any of these movies that I can actually tell you is bad. Like, it's unwatchable bad. I've never and honestly, I have never actually watched the Sean Connery movie that you speak of tonight, because it's very hard to find now. It's a very hard one to locate and watch. But all these other ones, I mean, I enjoy them to some effect in some way. Yeah, are they level like you said? Like, is one of them not as good as the other one? Yes, but are they unwatchable? No, I don't think
There's
any.
only one to me that I don't like watching.
But
That,
if a theater was rented and you got to watch it for free tonight, you'd sit and watch it. I know you would.
I probably wouldn't. I
Just
saw that
because
in
you
the
could be
theater.
because you know
I
why?
saw that movie in a theater in Bloomington, and I was so let down by it. It made me angry immediately.
But my point is that I could imagine that even if it was just me and you in a theater, then we could talk about the bad parts that you hate, and we could really dig deep into it. Because I don't
Well, in
mind
that case,
ripping
yeah,
apart a
it'd be
movie.
almost like a Mystery Science Theater type situation.
Hey, that would be a dream.
Okay,
But
under those
are we
circumstances,
talking about the Sean Connery? What are we talking one we've talked about yet or not yet? Oh yes, I know which one you're talking about.
you know exactly which one I'm talking about. No,
I know,
we're
and
not close to that one yet.
I can't wait to get to that one.
But if you, and I don't know if you've seen on Pluto last night, I was watching the Casino Royale from 1967.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a more ridiculous. That's a spoof. So you can't really take that as like, okay, is this a good Bond movie or not? It's a spoof.
Yeah.
So you can't really count that.
No.
But that's not as fun to watch as the regular Bond movies. But it is what it is. And if you're in the mood for that, you watch, like last night, I was like, oh, screw it, I haven't watched this in a while. Why not? It's got Orson Welles is in it. Ursula Andress is in it. Peter Sellers is in it. You have some cool actors, and like David Niven's in it. You see, it's fun, and they're trying to make fun of the whole thing and have fun with it. So if you think about that going in, you're not going to be like, okay, this movie's terrible. So, but
That's what's cool is that you got the Pluto doing the Bond channel, but I just wanted to watch Octopussy, and I'm like, I'm curious if Pluto just has, they just have the Bond movies individually. If you wanted to look them up and watch them too, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, they have them on demand, so you can watch them like that. And this is I don't know, maybe it's not the first time. I think last time they did too, but they're playing all the Craig ones this time, except for Spectre. I don't know why they're skipping Spectre.
Yeah, Skyfall was on last night.
Yeah, so they'll play them in order. So they played, obviously they played Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, but then they skip Spectre and go to No Time to Die for some reason. So, but the last time they did this, I think it's probably when No Time to Die came out, or I think right around then is the last time they did a month like this for just the Bond movies, which says it's been a while, and I've been almost like depressed, like, and then it's a little extreme, obviously, but that they haven't done that on Pluto in forever. And I'm sure when this month is done, they'll probably go back to not doing it. But either way,
this next section is probably where we may disagree. I think they could have went better with a better opening song.
They probably could have.
Not that it's bad.
I'm
It's
a
just
sucker for these types of songs in Bond movies.
it was
That's
the last movie was this type of song. I like when they go back and forth. But then again, A View to Kill is a really it's not this song. So I guess
no,
no. So you're
no.
right. So I
And they
guess they got two, and they haven't really used a lot of songs like this
well, no.
very
Think
often.
about this. So they haven't really had a banger since like the Man with the Golden Gun.
No, you're right.
That
Yeah.
was kind of, you know. So
Mhm.
that's one, two. So 3 films since has kind of been like basically love songs.
Yeah.
Moonraker is, well, yeah, it's kind of like that, but I mean, like, it's basically, yeah, it's basically a song like that until I View to a Kill, yeah. Which View to a Kill is a cool song,
It is.
but like, I don't know, I'm a sucker for this type of song though. Like, it's really.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not like if you played it, I'd be like, turn this off. It's just
But let me explain this for a second. So Albert Broccoli, there was a song, and I forgot. God, it's late me. I can't remember who wrote this, but there was someone wrote a theme for this, but it was like really filthy. It really played in the whole Octopussy thing. And then he reads it. He's like, I don't even know what this even is. I'm like, dude, you know exactly what this is.
you don't know what this.
You're not going to use it. So my suspicion, and it's not confirmed, maybe it is somewhere if you get on the old interwebs and look it up, is that they wanted to use the title's okay. They wanted the title. It's kind of balls enough. They wanted the title, but they wanted to put a song out there because Furio's only got in the Billboard charts. This song also got onto the charts as well. I think they wanted a song that could get onto the charts and be big like that. And if you had the word Octopussy in it, it might not have made it. So they went with Rita Coolidge's All Time High.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm a sucker for that type of thing. You know, I'm a sucker for the Roger Moore type Bond films, and that's another thing I'm a sucker for is those types of Bond themes. And it works very well in with the Maurice Binder openings. So I think I do like that. But but the thing is I can completely understand how someone else would not like it so much or want to go a different way.
Well, it's just again like, but I gotta give you kudos because you defend the point to why it does work for it, and it does work. I think just because you're looking for, as you said, someone, something maybe. I don't want to say more salt. I'm not saying the song isn't sultriest, but like you're looking for something a little bit more, sexy even.
Yeah, that's the way to put it. A sultry song.
But again, it doesn't. It's not like it ruins anything.
No, it doesn't ruin anything. I don't think it ruins anything. I think the movie still works fine without it.
Going into the beginning, such a great beginning. You know what I mean?
It is weird how it goes. Like you do that cold open, and then he's in the plane, and he gives the whole filler up line. Then it goes into that song. You're like, you didn't expect to hear that song.
Well, that's probably honestly when you say it like that, it kind of is actually cool because you're expecting maybe something like big, and it's more like,
yeah, it's like, and then it goes into the whole thing. But then, like I said, but for that song worked perfectly for that. Except for Maurice Bender's Open, which I love the opening. So if a song on with it, I'm going to like it.
When he goes in the beginning there, and she puts on like the mustache on him or whatnot.
Yeah, General Toro.
Just the way he acts. He's honestly, I really like Roger Moore. I'm not really familiar much more with him besides James Bond, but he's really great, James Bond.
Well, and in Cannonball Run, he plays, basically his James Bond character in Cannonball Run too, which is
I've never seen Cannonball Run. I gotta sit down and watch that one.
Oh, you gotta watch Cannonball Run. That's a very urgent thing you need to do. But anyway, so the movie itself, though, there's a lot of cool stunts in it. I mean, they really, but the one thing that's kind of like they really play on the India stereotypes in this one.
They do.
When they're going through, and it's a really cool chase sequence when he's in this car with VJ after he hustles money out of basically out of Camille Khan. He kind of beat cheats. You know, Camille Khan's been cheating, playing. I forgot what game he was playing, but basically he out cheats him to get money off of him, and he leaves with the Fabergé egg, which Camille Khan wants. But so they're going through a chase sequence kind of in India, and you see a guy walk across hot coals. You see a guy laying on a bed of nails. You see a sword swallower. When Bond comes up, and this is the one thing that pisses me off about the movie, when you see Bond meet VJ for the first time, VJ's playing, you know, like a flute, and he's being like a snake charmer with the snakes coming out of the. And in real life, you know, that actor really hated snakes. And he even says it in the film, but he really did in real life. But when the song he starts playing that gets Bond's attention is the James Bond, Monty Norman James Bond theme. So again, they break the fourth wall for no reason.
Pretty cool.
It's not to me, it's not as egregious as Lazenby looking into the screen and saying, "Isn't happening to the other guy," blah blah blah. But it's about on that level.
Yeah.
But so in the picture right there is that's the mini jet that's in the first you know, in the cold open, which like I said, it's a cool open.
It is.
And it really you know, Roger Moore's got some cool openings, man. Everyone talks about Connery's openings. Like in Russia with Love, you have Robert Shaw like hunting him. Then Goldfinger had an awesome opening too. Thunderball had a legendary one with the jetpack and everything in the fight sequence. But Roger Moore held his own in some opens. Like he had that stunt. He didn't do it, but obviously with the stunt where he jumps off skis off the cliff and the Spy Love Me.
You got to take over after the second guy. You know what I mean? That's why I've always respected Predator 2 quite a bit, because when Danny Glover's got to take the gloves from Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Yeah.
I mean, you got to give him credit, because that's the hardest thing anyone can do. It's Danny Glover. It's not even Mel Gibson. You know what I mean? It's Danny Glover, which is even cooler. What are some trivia you got from this movie?
So this movie, and we didn't really go into much of the story with this movie, but I mean, he's got to watch it. You'll see what I'm talking about. But so this is the only movie to date that includes the name of the female lead character in its title. So you've had a couple movies where the villain's the title, like Dr. No, for instance, Goldfinger and such. This one was Octopussy. And it's the only time a female lead has had her name as the actual name of the film itself. At the beginning of the film, 009, who you just see in a clown outfit, his guy's name was Andy Bradford. And he was also one of the Greek henchmen in the previous film, For Your Eyes Only. And he was also a bartender in Max Calba's bar in The Spy Who Loved Me. So he played a couple bit parts in previous Bond films, Roger Moore Bond films as well. Maud Adams and Christina Wayborn, years on down the line, this is about, it was probably about in the late 90s. Maud Adams and Christina Wayborn actually appeared in the same episode of That 70s Show.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And then it's kind of funny because in that same episode, Barbara Carrera, who was going to play Octopussy, who ended up being in Never Say Never Again, was also in that episode. So all three of them got to be in that exact episode later on. Yeah. So in one scene, the scene I was talking about with the nice elaborate set piece with a turning table where the Soviet, you know, this basically the Soviet high command is discussing whatever they're discussing, and Orlov goes into his monologue about, you know, destroying NATO and all that stuff. The Soviet chairman was played by a guy named Paul Hardwick. Now, Paul Hardwick was he looked just like Dan Hedaya for one thing. But if you watch it again, you'll look at him like, holy shit, that might be Dan Hedaya, but it's not. Anyway, but he's playing the Soviet leader, the premier at that time, Leonid Brezhnev. Now, between the time that was filmed and the time it was released, Brezhnev died. Ooh. So they were actually going to take the piece, like that scene, out of the film. But then they realized, well, this is Orlov going on about his whole plot, his motivation to do what he did. So they really couldn't remove it because it was too essential to the whole plot of the film. to push it along. You don't have that scene, it's going to be even like you're not going to know the hell what's going on. Period. For what reason? So, but it's kind of weird that like the guy they said, well, let's get a Brezhnev look-alike, and they did, and then unfortunately Brezhnev died while it was being, or after it was filmed, but before it came out. So they're like, well, crap, what do we do? So when the movie came out and you saw the Brezhnev character there, people are already like, okay, well, he's already dead. And well, they have, but either way. So part of this movie centers around a Fabergé egg by Peter Carl Fabergé. And the Fabergé, he made the basic coronation eggs for the last Tsar of Russia, Nicholas II. And for his coronation, and he made several of them, throughout the Tsar's reign. But that's what's being auctioned off during the Property of a Lady auction. And there's a fake egg, there's a real egg, and it's all part of the jewelry smuggling thing. So, but that was a real thing. Those Fabergé eggs were like a real thing that actually existed. And the actual coronation egg, though, because in this movie it's green.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have that photo, I sent you the photo of.
Yes, I got it right here. I pull it right up.
So this is from the Museum of Science and Industries display. That egg, the color's probably not the best there, but that is a green egg, and that is the egg, the prop egg that was in the film. And so you see in there, it actually has a little coronation, a little carriage in there and everything, and that's where Bond put the bug in there for the fake one. But anyway, the real coronation egg is actually yellow. And if you really want to know what it really looked like, you can watch Ocean's 11. Not Ocean's 11, I'm sorry, Ocean's 12. Ocean's 12, they have the egg in there, and the egg is actually yellow, not this color. But you see it basically in that film, and that's what it really looks like in real life. But that was a real thing made by Carl Fabergé. So it's kind of cool that they actually did mix that in. The Soviets being involved, they took something from the Tsarist era of Russia, pre-World War I, and included that in the film. So the jet, and the mini jet in the beginning of the film that we talked about a few times, which was an awesome prop, was awesome. That one right there, it's an awesome set piece. I'll also be remiss, I got to interrupt myself here and talk about the motorized crocodile that Bond rolls up in.
That was cool. That was
had to mention that. And all the stuff like I love Q's gadgets in this film when they're going through his lab and everything. The door smashing the dummy. Roger Moore says smashing Q. It's a lot of great stuff in there.
Sure.
But I had to mention the crocodile word. Bond's float. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so the mini jet right there. There was a guy who actually built this thing. It took him like 30 years to build it. And so I think he was. There were two guys that actually flew this thing. His name was Scott Manning, and then another gentleman named Howard Cox. They were going to fly this to an air show, I think in Canada or something like that. But the plane actually, when they're flying it, when they're practicing, I guess, it crashed and it killed them. Yeah. Took them all those years to actually build that exact model, and he did.
Shame.
And then it's what ended up killing him in the end.
Shame.
Yes. And now, for something that seems to come to every week now, Star Wars tie-ins.
Yes.
And there's 3 of them. So when you're going through Q's lab, you see Smithers again, who's also in Fear Eyes Only. And he's played by Jeremy Bulloch, who played Boba Fett, who I've mentioned a couple times in this show now. This is his 3rd Bond film he's in. And so he was in that for a brief period. And then at the end, when they're in the circus, when Bond's disarming, when Bond, dresses up as a clown himself.
That was a good part.
Very hastily, I might add, putting all that makeup on in just a few minutes, but it takes like usually hours to do, but we're not going to talk about it. Said it was a crazy, crazy time. But so there's a U.S. admiral there, and then there's one of his, basically one of his aides. The admiral is played by Bruce Boa, who is in The Empire Strikes Back as one of the generals who orders the evacuation.
That's cool.
And when they're on Hoth,
Well, that's
that's
cool.
Bruce Boa. If you look at it again, you're like, oh yeah, that is him. And then there's Richard Leparmentier. Now, this guy, what's cool about this dude is he played the U.S. aide to Bruce Boa in this movie, to the admiral, and so he's only in the circus scene. But this guy was also the only guy in all of Star Wars that stood up in the Empire, that stood up to Lord Vader. He was one in the first. He's in A New Hope. He said, "Don't frighten us with your sorcerer's ways, Lord Vader." And then Vader choked him and said, his lack of faith is what was disturbing to Vader. That was the same actor who was also in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which I think is always a very it's not talked about enough.
No.
He's a reporter in Superman 2.
Well, that's
so
great.
just think about that for a minute. This guy was in, Superman 2. This guy was in Star Wars, James Bond, Roger Rabbit, smaller parts, but still pretty awesome.
Pretty good.
And he was also married. He was married to Sarah Douglas, who played Ursa in Superman 2 as well.
Interesting. Very interesting. It's very cool. A lot of good stuff tonight. Wow, we were loaded with lots of goodies. I mean, it was a great movie.
Yeah, we didn't really get into like the whole story as much, but like I said, it's a kind of a convoluted plot. You just kind of got to watch it and just go along with it. Locations are cool. You get the typical stuff, like I said, in India.
That airplane fight at the end, that's worth the price of admission right there.
Oh, and I got to mention also, I'd be remiss as well if I didn't mention the stupid Tarzan yell that he does when he is hopping from tree to tree on a rope when Camille Khan's chasing him. That's kind of ridiculous. But like the chase scenes in this movie, like, at the beginning, even the chase scene, like with the twins, both chase scenes, with the twins, with Bond and the twins, 009 and the twins, the chase scene in the jungle when Kamal Khan's hunting him, the one through the street when he's with VJ in the small car. There's a great, like I said, at the end, there's a kind of a cool fight sequence. And then you have the plane. He kills the villain on the plane. He hangs on to it. That was all filmed in Utah. And
his face as it crashes into the mountain is one of the classics of all time.
Which I don't know why, like, nothing happened to the plane. Like, one of the engines were out, but like he was, I don't know why it couldn't break or what. But he's
like he went off. I don't understand two things. Okay, number one, the way him and her jump out of the plane, it wouldn't have worked that way. They would have went over they didn't make it out in time, but they did in the movie, so that's great. But the plane goes over. He should have been able to glide to a landing down there. He somehow flips and goes into the side of the mountain somehow again. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's a quick, like, just jump cut to him going like that. That's all you see, and then boom, it blows up.
Well, because he's holding her, and it does not look like he's going to get her. But then all of a sudden, as the plane crashes, he somehow has the muscles to get her up, and it's great Bond. He gets her.
They roll, and she's hanging off. In the physical universe we currently occupy, that is pretty much.
But that's why I like it. That's what makes it the Roadhousey, because you're like, Bond gets her. No one else would, but he did, and that's what's cool.
Well, it's probably the most ridiculous thing that's happened in a Bond.
No. And that's why next show we got. I can't wait to dig into the ridiculousness. I can't wait to dig into the villain.
Oh,
it's gonna be a good time.
It's a really good time. This is a good time. The next one's the next one is even more ridiculous, probably, with the story itself. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but like, man, that's a movie that's like, oh, that's on. I'm set for 2 hours.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We have dug deep into Octopussy. We hope you have enjoyed it. Lots of good stuff. Please go back and watch it. And if you haven't watched any of the other ones that we've talked about, watch those and then come watch our episode, because these are really awesome. Adam, thank you very much tonight.
If you just got to see Louis Jourdan to say Octopussy. Just for no reason. They just like, just say it as many times as you can get it out. If it's just for watch.
Oh yeah, because right here, Octopussy. Octopussy.
See, if my my brother must be watching. He's typing that himself right
That's
now,
great.
and I'm sure he's caught some errors I've made or some speaking mishaps. So I'm sure
Oh,
I'll done
hey,
too. So.
hey.
My brother, to his credit, besides me, is the only one who knows. He knows as much Bond as I do. So
That's pretty awesome. Also, is awesome is we shall be coming back here with At the Show. We're going to be talking to be coincidental books to film adaptations, which is exactly what we've been doing here on this show. Quite a few of them. So dig in to see what we will be talking about on there. Dig into everything else on the Sadistic Penguin Studios YouTube channel. Check out the Hookup on Music. Check out Frame to Frame. I believe they're going to be talking about the brand new Running Man that just came out and the old Running Man, talking about them too. Unfortunately, the new Running Man didn't do so hot at the movie theater, but that doesn't mean it's not a good movie. So I'm curious to see what they think. I'm also curious to get back to talking James Bond soon, my man.
and we will. Couple weeks, we'll do it
Yeah.
again. One
Yes,
more.
One
Just
more
one
Roger Moore.
for Roger Moore.
All right, everyone out there. Adam, you have a good week. Everyone out there, you have a good week. We will talk to you again soon. Good night.
Bye.
Bond. James Bond.